This is the audiobook version of Military to Civilian Transition Challenges from Military.Transition.org, copyright 2025 by Military.Transition.org. Introduction. The transition back into civilian life brings unforeseen challenges that service members and families must face. Unique challenges that make the process difficult, along with techniques to overcome these, and finally some ways that employers can assist, are the focus of this audiobook. Over the past 2 decades, our team has surveyed thousands of service members and veterans about their journey out of uniform. We've studied the obstacles, along with approaches that lead to success. We offer these lessons for your benefit. To set the stage, here are some of the key metrics we've gathered about the transition process and the issues members face. 76% of veterans say their transition was stressful. 59% say it took more time than expected. 52% say it was confusing. And almost half, 48%, say their transition was more difficult than they expected. This book was developed by veterans who've traveled this path and know firsthand the stress and confusion of transition. Our goal is to help service members understand what's ahead so they can navigate the unknowns and excel in their post-military lives. So, let's get started. After years of helping veterans, we've identified a dozen obstacles that troops and families encounter before, during, and after taking off the uniform. We grouped these into 4 major categories, each of which has 3 specific obstacles. The 4 broad categories of challenges are transition voids to fill, barriers to break, concerns to address, and finally, limitations to overcome. Let's begin with the first category of transition challenges, which we call the voids to fill. The first of 3 voids is a loss of purpose or meaning after serving. Let me explain. The military is a lifestyle, not a job. We don't punch in at 9 a.m. and leave the office at 5 p.m., nor do we have weekends off. Being a soldier, sailor, airman, marine, or guardian means being part of something bigger than yourself, and you're on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You eat and breathe this lifestyle, so the process of transitioning out represents a significant life change. Those who volunteer for today's military take pride in serving. They don't join for wealth, and a significant paycheck isn't their motivation. Many join to serve the nation, fulfill a purpose, and do something bigger than themselves. Yes, it's true that some join to get education or training. These individuals often find a larger purpose while serving. Over time, as service members' bond with their unit goes beyond friendship, and they become like brothers and sisters. This unique connection leads to a secondary purpose, which is serving their extended military family. Service members are willing to risk their own lives to protect those they serve with. No other community shares such a deep commitment or sense of purpose between members. Outside of the military, co-workers help each other, but few are committed to risking their own lives for their well-being. This deep sense of connection and shared purpose is difficult to replicate in civilian life, and this level of trust between members is unmatched anywhere else, which is why departing this environment creates a void that many veterans struggle to fill. The second void is a loss of identity or community after serving. The connection service members share extends beyond the workplace and becomes a dominant part of their lives. Outside of work, members surround themselves with others from their units. Social activities are with unit members or individuals who share similar ideals. Military families also become part of this close-knit community, which further insulates members from the outside world. As rank and responsibilities increase, members become more committed to the military community. Individual behaviors and thought processes align with their branch, rank, or duties. This environment leads those more senior in rank to surrender their individual identity and transform into a name and rank. They embody the status in and out of uniform, and often stop responding to their first names. For example, Richard Clark became Chief Clark, and his military associates all call him Chief. Achieving rank is a source of pride, and service members rightfully deserve to feel a sense of accomplishment. However, some retired members insist on holding lifelong stature because of their last rank. These members never fully surrender titles and incorporate these into business cards, signature blocks, and social media profiles long after retirement. This isn't a negative, but can add to the difficulty of embracing a new civilian identity and assimilating into an employer's culture. The military community demands assimilation of anyone in uniform, and family members are encouraged to join in this practice. Spouses might take on their partner's rank, intentionally or unintentionally, and volunteer duties are expected when rank increases. Many in uniform describe the military environment by saying they feel an intense sense of belonging around others who serve, and while on a military installation. The culmination of these factors creates an immersive community that amplifies the challenges of taking off the uniform and re-entering civilian life. The third void is a loss of structure and norms after serving. The military lifestyle is highly regimented and has both obvious and not-so-obvious norms which maintains and perpetuate structure. An example is daily schedules that are consistent and offer limited flexibility, regardless of rank, unit, or installation. Corporate America also maintains consistent routines, but the level of structure and the consequences for deviating are significantly different. A simple example is physical fitness routines. It's not uncommon for civilians to go to the gym, but the entire company doesn't arrive at the same time and exercise together. And the boss doesn't stand in front of them, talk about an important topic, force them to push themselves physically, and then lead a run. Civilians often deviate from the norm and exercise their individual preferences. Less obvious structure and norms include knowing what to wear in all situations. It's easy to prepare each morning when you wear the same outfit. Original thought isn't required, nor is individual style allowed in a military environment. Another example is the use of checklists, scripted actions, and consistent routines. Regardless of the situation, members are successful because they followed the process or modeled the behaviors of those around them. In uniform, we might call these SOPs, Standard Operating Procedures, or TTPs, Tactics, Techniques, and Procedures. Military members also benefit from continuity books that outline prescribed duties and tasks that instruct new members or those starting a new assignment. A more obscure aspect of military life involves remembering names and understanding an organization's hierarchy or power structure. We call this the chain of command. In the military, names are displayed, organizational structure is visible, and individual status or level of influence, rank, is always clear. On the other hand, understanding and navigating corporate norms can be complex and confusing. This new way of business can be a culture shock when you're accustomed to clear military structures and hierarchy. In short, the transition into a more ambiguous environment with less structure requires a significant mental adjustment and requires time to adapt. The next category includes the barriers to break, and there are 3 obstacles to discuss. The first is language. It shouldn't come as a surprise when I say the military has a unique language, or better yet, languages. Each branch has a unique dialect and subdialects that make communicating with those outside their club a challenge. Not only do these languages confuse non-military outsiders, but these also confuse members in other branches, and service-specific dialects continually evolve, which means veterans who served years ago might not understand the languages used by those serving today. Some military groups also use intentional profanities to differentiate themselves from others, or to highlight their perceived superiority. This is so common that inappropriate words and phrases are difficult to remove from normal thought processes, yet essential when transitioning back into civilian life, and especially when seeking employment. So what does this really mean? Well, these language barriers have the potential to create employment issues or derail relationships with civilian coworkers. Employers struggle when reviewing resumes or when interviews are filled with military-specific terms. Breaking this barrier requires veterans to learn a new language and also translate their experiences in ways civilian employers can understand and connect with. Once again, this takes time. The next barrier to break is culture. The military as a whole, and each service, has an immersive culture where conformity is linked with recognition and promotion. The way soldiers, sailors, marines, airmen, and guardians think and behave are driven and constrained by culture. The civilian population doesn't understand, and worse yet, has erroneous perceptions based upon the lens of Hollywood. Stereotypes are pervasive and often fit into broad and incorrect categories such as rigid, broken, aggressive, or unstable. This misunderstanding can lead to isolation and may prevent members from going outside the wire to interact with non-veterans. This can be a significant barrier to overcome, and trust can suffer on both sides of the military-civilian divide. Both sides perpetuate the separation, and veterans often view civilian coworkers as undisciplined, lazy, or ungrateful for the freedoms they enjoy. These broad generalizations and misperceptions need to be removed and trust restored to help bridge the divide. Building trust, removing misunderstandings, and overcoming differences is critical to reintegration. The third barrier is information. This barrier is clear yet confusing, and the best way to describe the situation is by saying there's misinformation, information gaps, and information overload all simultaneously. Right now, there are thousands of veteran service organizations, or VSOs, supporting those in uniform and veterans. Many of these organizations are focused on transition assistance, and we call this outpouring of support the Sea of Goodwill. You'll also find individual veterans who want to share their personal experiences to help others. These self-proclaimed transition and employment experts have noble intentions, but much of their advice doesn't scale to the larger military population. It's unfortunate. The fact is that veterans who achieve some level of success in a short period want to broadcast their advice, while those who struggle in transition remain quiet. This creates a perception, especially on social media, that success isn't difficult. Some veterans believe that follow-on employment is assured since the military teaches leadership skills that industry desperately needs. They also think career civilians lack discipline and their military experience makes them natural leaders. The result is that some minimize the effort required during transition, or worse, make poor decisions based on the misinformation that permeates the sea of goodwill I just described. The lesson is simple, but important to learn before you start the transition. Invest the time, check your sources of information, and do your homework when preparing for what's next. The next category of challenges are concerns to address, and there are 3 unique obstacles to discuss. The first concern is time. Service members, especially those more senior in rank, have busy schedules with limited flexibility. This creates challenges when trying to understand the civilian workforce, adapt their skills, and build networks that enable a successful transition. Some rationalize their inability to actively prepare by saying things like, "I'm too busy," or "I'm too focused on the mission," or "I don't want to disappoint those above me and fail those below me." This overwhelming sense of commitment to the mission or team makes shifting attention away from one's core duties almost impossible. This leads many individuals to delay true preparation until it's too late to make a difference. Another reason for delay comes down to overconfidence, combined with limited understanding of the civilian workplace. This leads our troops to assume they're prepared for what's next, until they learn otherwise. In this situation, they often start their next career at a disadvantage. The second concern to address is family. Sometimes we forget that our families also navigate the return to civilian life. Families become accustomed to the warm embrace of the military environment and enjoy being part of a community of like-minded individuals. When arriving at a new duty location, they're welcomed by the new unit or friends from past assignments. They have community services like a military grocery store, retailer, Class 6, gym, gas station, hospital, dentist, and many other conveniences depending upon the specific duty location. A military relocation might be across the globe, but the new location has the same general feel as the previous assignments. This can be different when you transition for the last time into a new community, without the military welcome wagon and familiar support elements. Reintegration with civilian life means adjusting to new routines and environments, without the safety net that families have grown accustomed to. The third concern to address is employment and financial stability. Employment and financial stability are the most significant concerns associated with the transition process, and this applies to both members and families. In the military, career paths, promotion timelines, and projected income are transparent. The same isn't true on the outside. Here, employment and financial stability aren't guaranteed, and some individuals experience this immediately. This shock tends to be more common among individuals who've not done their homework and prepared for their follow-on career, or saved a few dollars to weather an employment gap. The issue of finding meaningful employment after serving is the emphasis of our free transition guidebook series. You can download the full series of guidebooks on our website at www.military-transition.org/ebooks. The key lesson is to begin preparing as early as possible for your post-military career and to have a financial safety net which can provide more control during the transition process. The last category of challenges are the limitations to overcome, and the first is inadequate self-reflection. Successful transition begins with self-reflection. This leads to an understanding of what you want after serving. Important topics like career preferences, desired locations, lifestyle, income, and schools need to be considered and discussed with family. The information barrier and lack of time discussed previously often contribute to a lack of self-reflection and clarity on key issues. Remember, it's your transition, so take control and define what you want it to be. Over the years, we've observed veterans who think their most valuable skill is the ability to adapt to any job. When asked by an employer what types of roles they can perform, these individuals will ask the recruiter, "What do you need me to do?" These individuals don't understand that saying or implying, "I can do anything," translates into "I can do nothing." It takes time and multiple rejections before many realize they need to think about their strengths, weaknesses, interests, desires, and ultimately their true preferences. This only happens through purposeful self-reflection. The second limitation to overcome is reluctance to ask for help. The military community is reluctant to ask for help, and members often feel that asking for help or accepting assistance admits weakness. Right or wrong, they believe their ranks are filled with the nation's best, and people like them don't ask for help, they provide it. Admitting they need assistance tarnishes the message society has told them about being warriors and heroes. Getting over this limitation is difficult, but a necessary step forward. Mentors are essential. It can help guide service members toward the resources and mindsets to be successful. The third and final limitation is medical. Some veterans have medical limitations to overcome, or family members with special needs. Please understand these issues are just a fact of life, and don't let them stop your planning and preparation for life on the outside. Factor these into your timelines, have realistic expectations, and utilize all of the services available through the transition process. Now that you understand the 12 transition challenges, let's discuss ways to reduce the impact these might have on you and your family. The first way is to understand the challenges ahead and start preparing as early as possible. Change is never easy, and the transition is more than a simple career change. Now that you know what's ahead, be proactive and start planning to be successful. The second way is to get connected. One of the best ways to start preparing is by connecting with individuals who've already navigated the transition. Find mentors and learn from their experiences. We recommend connecting with organizations like ACP, American Corporate Partners, Post Veterati, and Mill Mentor. We also recommend connecting with members of your local community through social groups, churches, and other programs. The third way is to reflect and adapt. Start thinking about what follows your military service now, since decisions made while serving will impact future life and career options. Once you have some idea about future careers, do your homework and learn more about these options. Start a journal and keep your thoughts together. This eventually leads to a transition plan with goals, timelines, and enabling actions. The fourth way is to establish good habits. Moving from a highly regimented environment into complete freedom sounds great, but the immediate loss of structure can be difficult. Start the process knowing you'll keep some structure and use this to your advantage. Before the transition, make a commitment to accomplish one activity each day to help prepare. Get into a routine that allows honest self-evaluation. After the transition, keep expanding your knowledge. Also maintain a fitness routine, and don't fill the open time with destructive habits. The fifth way is to save money before the transition. There could be a disruption in your paycheck, so a few dollars set aside will help reduce the stress and allow you to focus on the important aspects of the transition. The sixth way is to have someone to talk with. Knowing that someone cares makes a difference. It can be a friend, family member, counselor, or anyone you trust. The battle buddy concept you learned while serving is just as important in civilian life. Don't wait until the last minute to identify your support network. The seventh way is to get involved or volunteer. Feeling of loss or emptiness are common after taking off the uniform, and doing something to help others is a great way to fill this gap. Local community, church, and social groups are options, along with reputable veteran organizations. The eighth way is to get help. Everyone needs help at some point, and it's a sign of strength to ask. The challenges are real, and we're losing too many veterans to suicide each day. Please don't let it get that far, and get the support you need. The ninth way is to help someone else. Everyone needs a support network, and helping others is one of the best ways to fill the opening. It helps to keep things in perspective and highlights the fact that challenges are a part of life. Helping others enables self-reflection, and research suggests it actually makes us happier. The 10th way is to be patient. You didn't become a warrior overnight, and the return to civilian life requires time, so be patient and give yourself some grace. Now that you understand the most common transition challenges and ways to minimize or overcome these obstacles, let's shift our focus and talk about how employers can assist. There's no question that employers have an important role in helping veterans understand the process of joining their organizations and creating an environment that retain talent. Our work highlights 3 specific tactics that promote recruitment, integration, and retention of veteran talent. The first is to show how veterans and their families are valued within your organization. Veterans thrive in organizations that provide a sense of community, purpose, and belonging. So recruitment efforts should highlight this along with promoting an organizational culture that values hard work combined with team building, family, and community activities. A great way to do this is by establishing a local veteran network that has visible leadership support. Be sure to include those currently serving in the Guard or Reserves, and involve families in community events and social activities. Perform acts of service and celebrate those across the organization to encourage further participation. Finally, make the group visible through recruiting programs and on corporate websites so candidates know the organization values military service. Number 2. Incorporate veterans currently working in your organization throughout the hiring process and onboarding process. Veterans bring credibility to recruiting and onboarding efforts, and they should be visible throughout the process. The ability to ask questions and gather perspectives from someone who served is powerful. The sooner veterans see individuals with similar experiences inside the organization, the better. We recommend incorporating veterans in hiring events, career fairs, on-site visits, interviews, and encouraging participation in mentoring programs. Service members are often given a sponsor when changing duty locations, and this dynamic can help reduce the stress and confusion of joining your organization. Once the job offer is extended, consider assigning a sponsor with a similar military background. This communicates support, structure, and promotes open and candid discussions. And number 3, provide training to managers that don't have military experience. After hiring a former service member, consider pairing the hiring manager with a company insider that has military experience and can assist with onboarding. When this isn't practical, we recommend providing orientation training for non-veteran managers. This training should cover military branches, ranks, and culture. Finally, we suggest assigning veterans as mentors or internal consultants to non-veteran managers so they can advise on key issues to include development and retention. Closing thoughts on the challenges of the military transition. This guidebook discussed the most common challenges associated with the military to civilian transition. The lessons contained in this book should be used to help you understand and better navigate the journey from military service into the civilian workforce. But you need to go beyond this and invest the time and energy. The online version of this book, along with the other free transition guidebooks, are a great starting point. In addition, our website contains resources and links to organizations we recommend. Also, look us up on LinkedIn and let us know how we can be of service now or in the future. We also encourage you to discuss these lessons with mentors as you plan and execute your transition. Our last bit of advice is always to remember it's your future and you are responsible. Step up, take charge, and make it what you want it to be. Throughout this audiobook, I mentioned additional ebooks that provide greater depth on issues related to the transition process. These books are free to download and can be accessed at our website. The current titles available are Navigating the Military Transition, Truths About the Military Transition, Winning the Employment Game, Veteran Edition, Military to Civilian Transition Mistakes, Networking for the Military Transition, Planning for the Military Transition, and After the Military Transition. Please utilize these free resources and let us know how we can be of assistance. This concludes the audiobook version of Military to Civilian Transition Challenges from Military-Transition.org. Copyright 2025 by Military-Transition.org.